Welcome to the Blueprint Podcast, where the blueprint to understanding a new and unified world is in our shifting consciousness.
Hey everyone, welcome and thank you for joining the Blueprint Podcast. This is Angela Blaha and Jason Hermanson. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Enjoying the energy from the last 2 weeks. It's been pretty crazy and intense, actually.
It has been a bit different for sure. Yeah, I think we're going to see more of that kind of energy, actually.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
More intense as we move through June, July, all the way through September. So,
yep, agreed.
Just a heads up for you all. Get ready. Put your big people pants on.
Yeah, lace up those bootstraps. You're going to need them.
Yes, for sure. All right, so today we want to really talk about self-actualization. We're going to continue this sort of process because it is really the new earth concept and where we're headed as a humanity. And we want to also touch on building that foundation, or like really building a really strong foundation in your own self, so that you can actually self-actualize. So it's probably, in my opinion, the most important process that we can work through right now is the creation of your foundation. We have so much cosmic energy, etheric energy, physical energy, quantum energy that is literally moving humanity in the direction of this whole new creation mentality that we need to really, I want to say, address, process, and then move into deeper. So we touched a little on creating a very stable foundation last week in order to move into that creation mentality. And I feel that we need to discuss the importance of the masculine and the feminine energy here. But I also want us to think very, very differently about how that is going to be, right? So before, we believed that the masculine energy was on the left side of the brain, left brain logic kind of thing, and that the feminine energy was on the right, which represented intuition, that right brain intuition kind of mentality. So that has literally all changed now, and it's become horizontal. Within the body, not just the brain. So there's so the masculine energy is on the top of the chakras, and then they sort of meet in the middle at the heart space, and then the feminine energy is the heart and below. And the reason that this has changed is because we can hold more wisdom, we can hold more information when we flip this the other way. We relied primarily on the physical brain before, but now these energies combine and there's no separation of energy any longer. So this is a stable component, I think, that we really need to sort of grasp and maybe dive deeper into and explore a little bit more within our own self as to how this changes and what does that mean as we move through the change. So what's been your experience, Jason?
My experience with this transition, going from divided, right and left, male, female, into alignment, right? It's been interesting. Tapping into and moving more into my feminine type energy I've been working on for quite some time, prior to all of this. So it's been a little bit easier transition for myself. For some of the folks that are around me and closest to me, it's been a lot more shocking, a little bit more difficult to tap into, to recognize and maybe balance that alignment a little bit more. It's been a little bit more emotional. There's been a little bit more fatigue physically with some of that. Not sleeping well at night. your emotions are on a lot more of a roller coaster ride. There's a lot more highs and lows with your emotions, I've noticed the last couple of weeks. I know I've mentioned this at the very first podcast I was on about just other people and people's energies. Has been a little bit rough to be around and deal with from time to time. That I've noticed in myself these last 2 weeks has been even more so. It's been a lot harder to be around other people that might not be transitioning as quickly as some. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But so I've been kind of staying in my own little bubble, trying to stay close to home, kind of stay in my own little energy until the balance of this huge shift that, I mean, honestly has just kind of transpired over the last couple of weeks, balances out, because it's a whole new level of frequency, right? I've noticed this frequency change in my entire body from going to a split male female into that alignment. It created shockwaves in my energy field, and my frequency has amped up. It's gotten a lot higher. It's a totally different pitch right now. So that has been something I've been trying to be mindful of, knowing that it's transitional period, balance will come. So just trying to make sure I not make any drastic, big decisions, just trying to give myself some grace and ease and really focus on those foundational aspects I want to create for myself moving forward.
Mm-hmm. I think that it's also important that we bring in, like in our world, and especially if you live in the USA, there's some hot topics around masculine, feminine, androgyny, like all the sexual components of it. So just because you're either male or female, or you identify with something else, doesn't, it has nothing to do. Okay, it has everything to do, but yet it has nothing to do with masculine and feminine energy. Because, and here's the reason why. I identify as a woman, but yet I have been in my masculine energy my whole entire life, up until probably 3, 4, maybe 5 years ago. Then I started to sort of like ask myself, well, what is feminine energy, right? Like, what is this? If we are moving into this new place of, seeing masculine and feminine energy differently, then we have to literally define what that really means for us. I'm much a doer, like I do a lot of things, which is supposedly masculine, but I think it's also feminine. I don't know why we have to categorize that anyway. But I'm also extremely intuitive. And so how do you bring those two things together, combine them, and create a stable foundation? Like I think that's where the focus, for me, that's where the focus is how do I combine the two energies and become more androgynous, so that I don't actually use one energy over the other, or I don't use it to control myself, or I don't use it to demean myself, which I think we do a lot, particularly feminine energy, because we've been trained not to use our intuition. And I think that's where the problems reside. For me anyway, that's been the course of my life, is like, I've been very masculine in my energy, but yet I'm very intuitive. And so, how do you combine that to be more stable, more, more solid in who you are? I think that's the message. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's what you said at the beginning of that is extremely important for listeners to recognize, understand, believe, know that how you identify as a sex, male, female, that's not what we're talking about here.
Right.
Talking about the energy side, the masculine energy and the female energy. That's what we're talking about. So like you said, it was prior to your different sides of your body, You would tap into different aspects of that energy depending on those tasks that you had that day. Like for in your example, some people lived in that energy for majority of their life and then would transition into the other side, and you would work to find that balance, right? But now on all that's just set all that to the side, and now you're just bringing that energy into oneness. And like you had talked about, its center is our heart space, male, the 3 chakras and the energy centers above that space, female is below that space, and they're all in alignment now. It's not separated. That has nothing to do with the sex, male, female, stuff like that. So or how you identify.
Right. I think that this world, Earth, has been in the masculine, that masculinity kind of doing energy for a really long time. And now we're saying, okay, well, we're gonna combine that with the feminine energy and move forward. And it's a different place to be. Like mentality, your mind has to change. I think that the problems that we're seeing in the world right now, with male versus female kinds of issues, are just the projection of the transition that we're moving through.
That's what I was just going to say. I don't want to derail our topic here, but that's exactly right. Everything we've seen here just over the last several months with that whole topic is just that. It's just this reflection of this transition, this progression forward. And it's getting confusing. The energy is getting confusing, and people's emotions are getting all jacked up, and that's what's leading to a lot of all this BS, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Because we are being asked to change, and in change there will be different versions of change, and that's just how change is. And we can't deny those versions of change. But also you need to ask yourself, go within and ask yourself, like, what's true for me? How am I making this shift? Am I doing it outwardly or am I doing it inwardly? And am I actually even acknowledging it? Right? Because, we have a lot of belief systems based in sexual identification, and our entire world is based around that, right? Governments, religions, politics, like everything is based around our identity. And now we're saying we need to change our identity. We need to, but it's not an identity that we're changing. It's the energy of the identity that we're changing. And when we go this deep into the DNA, there's bound to be some sort of physical things that we need to address. If we've had any type of abuses in the past, again, this is where healing needs to come in, because you're not going to be able to see things in a 360 viewpoint. You're only going to see it through your perspective, right? And so, those kinds of things we have to be open to. I think healing, identifying the root cause here, or the root of the problem, or that you think is a problem. There's never really a problem, but we think that we have problems. I think that is the component to self-actualization in creating this extremely stable foundation that we have.
Okay, so how do we, or how does someone recognize what aspects of that higher, lower areas they need to focus on? How do they recognize that?
Yeah, I was looking at that this morning, and I was asking myself, I think for me, it's a visual, right? Like I'm visualizing, okay, so information or wisdom resides, the doing portion of me, the logical side of me resides someplace here. Like for me, it's all combined any longer. So I don't really have this thing of it's on the top or it's on the bottom. Like I don't even get that whole concept, but I understand the mentality of it, because we are moving into this alignment. this vertical alignment. It's not a horizontal energy field any longer. It's a vertical energy field, which is, opens up to infinite possibilities, where this one was combined or determined by the matrix, the belief systems that sort of held us in place. Now we're going vertical. And so there's, the expansion of that is like, it's infinite. Like that's where the energy of infinite possibilities comes from, that quantum sort of energy. I honestly don't know how to answer that question, because I just don't even, it doesn't even.
Well, here, I'll answer it. Okay. It's not complicated. I mean, you'll hear us say that all the time, right? It's not complicated, but it really isn't. So just, you can just close your eyes and just remove your logical brain out of the way, and you know who you are. Each and every one of us know who we are. We know what skill set we bring to a specific environment we find ourselves in, and look at those different aspects, right? I'm a very much of a doer. I get stuff done. I just put my big boy pants on and plow through until I get that stuff done, right? I'm much more male type energy, right? So we are believed to what we've been believed. And I know I need to work on the softer skills, work on strengthening my intuition, work on the more nurturing side of my energy, which would be that feminine type side. So, I mean, I know who I am. I know what my skill set is. I know what I bring to the table each and every day. And I know those areas that I need to work on polishing up, right? They are in me. I just need to work on polishing those up. Mm-hmm. That's how you know which top or bottom you need to be working on. Once you recognize those areas, and then you focus on those areas of your energy body, right? You start your heart space, right? We have 7 chakras. We have 7 colors. There's 7 musical notes. Is that correct? So you start focusing on those, the 3 lower chakras and their colors, or the 3 upper chakras and their colors, right? That's how you start bringing those aspects more into your awareness and more into your daily life, and just start polishing those up. It's really that easy. An example would be, you need to work on your top chakras. Wear the color blue for the whole week. Tap into the color blue, right? That's your throat chakra. Tap into that. Dig into Google, right? What frequency does that chakra carry with it? What frequency aligns with that musical note, right? And then listen to those sort of frequencies if you have time, if you like to listen to music. Look into what that chakra resonates of. What's that mean? And just work on those different aspects. It's really that easy. It's not that difficult. It doesn't have to get all fancy and complicated.
Right. That's a great way to do it. What I've noticed over the last probably 2 to 3 weeks is I've always been, I know one of my skill sets is intuition, right? But it seems to be more grounded now, which is so helpful. My writing, and here's the evidence, is my writing has changed considerably. Like, it was before words that were maybe airy-fairy or very etheric. And how do you bring it into a reality or make it your reality? Well, now since the process has changed, like, it's really easy to understand the process and to ground it into a life, like ground it and create a life from it. So I noticed that has really changed, which tells me, right, that, okay, now my intuition is very stable. Where before, maybe it wasn't so stable. It was more, I dealt more in the past lives, future lives, that kind of thing, where right now it's very present. So I mean, that is one of the evidence components. And so, like Jason said, like dive into that chakra and see if it expands, if it changes, if you're working on grounding, really dive into the color red. And for me, I always hated the color red. Like it was, I don't know why. Never knew why. It was just always a turnoff for me. Well, it was because I was so intuitive that I just lived up in the ethers, right? And that meant that I had to actually create a life based around bringing that wisdom in, and then how do you like expand it into money, and how do you use it as education? How do you use it to, in relationships? Like all of that had to come into place. But over the last couple of weeks, I've noticed that it doesn't bother me as much anymore, and I haven't really dug into it too much. I just know that I want the change. And so the change is actually taking place. But the evidence for me is through the writing components. Like there's a deeper understanding of processing it and actually putting it into a lifestyle.
Yeah. You kind of went where I was just going to go for myself. I'm someone that has lived out here for quite a while now, and I like to play out there in the ethers and travel. And now I need to work on bringing all that back in, and grounding that more, bringing that into my power, which is your yellow or second chakra. So, and like you said, balancing that on taking what that skill set that I have honed out here,
right,
and how I can bring that into everyday life. Because as we've talked about on here, as you've talked about on your weekly cosmic forecasts, all of this out here is coming into here now, right? The cosmos are moving all of this energy, experience, lives, work, and bringing it into Earth and into the earthly plane. Right. So our energy has to do the same thing.
Right, exactly.
Let's see, there was like what you are talking about with this energy alignment, foundation, all that. It's just it's a whole new level of consciousness that we were moving into, right? That was very, very important word, new consciousness, 2 words that have been in my awareness all week long. They popped into my awareness over the weekend, and that's exactly what we're moving into. It's this whole new level of consciousness that majority of this globe, of this rock, has not experienced for a long, long time on this plane.
Right. It's what we talked about in the very first podcast of the blueprint, was this more unified. It's not a completely 100% unified state of consciousness. Humanity is not ready for that. It is a more unified state of consciousness, though, compared to where we've been, which has been 100% separation. And we're slowly moving into this unified state where the masculine and the feminine energies are unified. Like they're not one, it doesn't dominate over the other or have control over the other. They're very much in a unified, I don't even know what a better word besides unified is, a more equalized state of energy state. And the only way that we can move outwardly so that the world can actually be, have masculine and feminine energies equal, is to do it within yourself first. That's what we are talking about when we are talking about self-actualization and creating this or building a stable foundation for yourself. Is each individual person has to do the work before the entire group can do the work. I mean, it's how the process on Earth is, and in this galaxy is. And so
it starts here.
Yes.
And then just eventually just works itself out from the center. You are the center, right? Each and every one of us is our center of our own universe.
Right.
We have to do this first, and then everything will just start going out from there in a more 3D realm, not on a linear plane.
Right. Exactly. exactly.
Or multi-dimensional plane. I shouldn't say 3D. Never mind.
Yeah. 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 So it's not too hard. What are some of the steps that we use is take one chakra, like Jason said, and dive into it. Look at the color of it, look at how it feels within you. Sometimes, so we have been made to believe that the root chakra is like in the pelvis area, right? But what if your root chakra isn't in the pelvis area? What if it's, who knows where it could be? It could be up in the ethers. It could be down into the earth. It could be clear off to the side, one side or the other. I mean, let yourself examine. Like last week we talked about three steps of self-actualization, which was leaving the matrix, making a decision, and then self-examination. This is one of those times when self-examination is really truly important, because you need to figure it out. Just because the world says, or some belief system says, that the root chakra is in the pelvis area, means nothing, literally, especially when we're moving and moving everything around. I think that for me, when I'm looking at my chakra systems, it's just a color, like a constant movement of color within me. And I honestly don't even see chakras too often, but it's there's just a mix of energy that's constantly moving.
We'll all get there.
Yeah, for sure.
But just move them around. If you see your root chakra, the red one, it's above your belly button, take it out, put it in your third eye. Take the third eye and put it in where your belly button is. You can move them around. You can take them. You can send them up into the cosmos and grab a new one, put it in place. Like you said, they don't have to be in that alignment that we have believed they are. For a long period of time now. You can play with them. You can move them around. You can take two of them, put them in your hand, and just have them sit there for a while. It doesn't have to be structured like that, like their old way.
Right. The other thing I think that's important about that is, like, if you're playing with the root chakra and you're wanting to ask what's feminine about it and what's masculine about it. I think that for me was sort of, I don't know if it clarified or if it helped to understand, but in safety, like the root chakra is all about being safe, feeling safe. Bring in the emotional body, bring in the mental body, bring in the spiritual body. Like, what do all those components have to do with that one chakra? And then, if it is about safety, well, how does my feminine energy, my intuition, am I safe in expressing that here? Am I safe in, getting downloads or knowing things in a whole different way? And then, the masculine portion of that is, okay, well, what's logical? How can I use this in my life? How can I operate? Can I operate, using intuition, and what does that would even look like? And so there's so many different levels within one chakra. Then move into sounds. Like, how does the sound affect you? Does it affect you? Does it make you feel more grounded? Does it make you feel more split? Does it make you feel more comfortable? Those would be signs or symbols that say there's probably something that needs to be healed there. There could be an old wound there. There could be, something. But those would be the symbols as to, oh, I need to dig into this a little bit deeper.
Yep. I know some listeners, might be thinking to themselves, what, Angela says she doesn't see symbols. It's all just one magical fucking color spectrum that's flowing through her body. She doesn't have all these different energy centers. It's all one. It lives in her heart. What the fuck? Why can't I have that? It's a transition. Like Angela said at the beginning, or a little bit ago, about, mankind, humans, we wouldn't be able to deal with this huge shock and awe of change, transition right away. If it was up to Angela and I, we would want that. That's just how we operate. Rip the damn Band-Aid off.
Exactly.
Let the shit happen the way it needs to happen. We can't do that, right? And the universe knows that. It would just be a total shit show if that happened. So this is a transition period. We will all get to that place, oneness, balance, eventually. It will happen, but it is a transitional period here. So if you're sitting in your living room tonight and you just got done listening to this and you have your eyes closed and you're checking in with yourself, making sure all your chakras are around, all these energy centers are around, and you only see 4 of them, that's okay. You, at that moment in time, you might only have 4 of those that you need to focus on. The other 3 will show up. Or maybe the other 3 have transformed themselves into one of those other 4. That's perfectly fine. Don't judge. Everybody's experience is going to look different. Just because this is what Jason said or Angela said, or this is what your spouse is, or this is what your BFF is doing, doesn't mean that's going to be necessarily true for you. We're just giving some tips and tricks that we've learned, some experiences that we've been having. So hopefully they resonate with you, and they might not look exactly the same, right? So don't judge. Please don't judge. Don't judge yourself. Don't freak out about it that, oh God, I'm not having this. It'll happen. Okay. So let's, I got 2 things. What time is it? Oh yeah, we got time. So I got 2 things. You asked how my 2 weeks have been. Something that keeps popping up in my head I need to talk about. Something that I woke up with this morning. We're gonna back up a few weeks and kind of jump back onto that amygdala topic, right? The place where our fight or flight originates from, right? That was flight or flight was a tool, a mechanism we had to have to survive as human beings on this rock for a long period of time. We don't need that no more.
No.
And I woke up this morning with this strong guidance that I need to work on letting go of that, strengthening my amygdala more so that whole fight or flight mechanisms dissipate, go away. Well, how do I do that? There are some, asana techniques that I've learned over the years that kind of help with that. But that's just, I wanted to jump back onto that when you asked me what I've been experiencing at the beginning, that is something that I think is important to kind of make sure that we transition out of that fight or flight state and into more of this new consciousness space that we're transitioning into.
Yeah. So fight or flight is used as a survival technique, right? Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Those are all basic survival techniques that we have used over time. And they come from wounds. They come from, wounded spaces within us, or literally survival, just survival. I'm just trying to survive here. So we do need to change our perceptions about what is fight or flight, the survival techniques, into more of a thriving technique. That's a big jump. I have to say, this is probably something that I've been teaching for the last 4 or 5 years. And how do we actually get from survival into more thriving? Like, how do we see, because survival is really the lower vibrations, right? It's the negative thought. It's the everyone's out to get me. It's the blame, shame, guilt mentalities, and we all have them. Self-sabotage. Yeah, we all have those things, right? But they come from wounds. They come from survival wounds. And in order to transform those, like, you have to literally change the entire way that you believe and think. It's not an easy, I'm going to say that one is not an easy transition. And it is a progress. Like, you have to constantly be working on yourself.
Yes.
That.
But
it could take years. And it's leveled.
But so that everything Angela just talked about, something that also I was reminded of this morning when I was diving deeper into this for myself is, so Angela's absolutely right. All of that stuff is wounds that we've carried with us, right? From time to time to time. Well, guess what? Something that we need to hang on to and remember is all of that shit was tied to the old tree of life. All that old shit has been gone, dissipated, recycled, no longer carrying that crap, no more. Yeah. It's a brand new clean slate that we're started with now. So we don't have to worry about that. So I'm hopeful. I'm going to work on this, but I'm hopeful that it's going to be a lot easier today to heal that, to remove that fight or flight responses and energy. It's going to be a lot easier today than it was a year ago, 2 years ago, several months ago, you know? So, because all that shit was tied to this old crap that no longer serves us to where we're going. So I don't have to deal with it as intensely. It should be a little bit easier for me to let go of that fight or flight response, let it dissipate, let it go away, because I don't need that shit no more. And I ain't carrying shit forward that I don't no longer need.
Right. That's where the power of a decision comes in. And when you make a decision, it needs to be a decision like you've never made before. Like you need to say, this is enough. I'm not doing that crazy self-sabotage game any longer. When you do that, there is extreme power there. And in that power, like that whole looping system that we've had in our brain with the self-sabotaging kind of things, it will completely transform itself. But you have to be very concrete in your decision. You can't say one day, well, I'm going to do this. And then the next day you say, oh, I don't know if that's working. So I'm just going to, you're just recreating the pattern. You're just recreating that loop. The power has already been done, right? The loop's already disappeared. But if you're doubting yourself, if you're allowing yourself to move back into your old pattern, it will be recreated. That's where people, I feel right now, are getting stuck, is that loop. They're trying to recreate the loop because it's comfortable in the loop, right? Because that's what we've been doing for over eons and eons and eons. And so there's a level of safety there, self-sabotaging safety, but it doesn't serve you to stay in that energy any longer. Now, I think that sometimes we have problems with what is a decision? And what's the decision I want to make? Because we're not really trained in being the creators of our own life, right? That creation mentality.
That's true.
That's where we get sort of stuck, because we're like, oh, well, I don't know if I don't know if God or the energies or whatever is going to help me do this. No, that's, again, the old tree of life.
Old. Yeah, let it go.
Exists. Yeah, that's survival. That's where survival is. So if you're actually having those kinds of thoughts or that kind of mentality, that I'm going to say that's where you need to start with healing some of this creation mentality woundage. And it's not only human woundage, it's soul woundage, because our souls have been wounded throughout this whole process of separation.
So that plays into my next, where I think we should end today. Okay. You just kind of, I'm gonna jump on this right now, since you said the magic word. Going from this to this, what does that mean for our soul? And what does that mean for our soul's energy going forward?
Great question.
I know, right? Something that I've been thinking about all week long. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily have the answers. This is just like, again, this is all brand new. This is just something that transitioning from a place of separation into alignment and balance. What does that mean for my soul? Is my soul going to kind of carry both more equally, male and female energy? Is it going to transform into this whole third new energy, which is everything's just one, that's where I've been going all week long, just trying to play with that idea of, so what's this mean now for my energy body, right? Going from this place to this, what does that mean? How's that going to impact my energy field, my energy body, and my soul?
Well, let's start sort of dissecting that. In my experience and all the shamanic work that I've done, the belief systems of the shamans is that a soul can separate, right? And our energy can separate because of any wounds that we've had or trauma that we've experienced. Well, humanity has experienced trauma for an extreme trauma for eons. So if we come from that belief system or that concept, then we have to start bringing back some of those aspects or healing some of those aspects, not just on the human level, but on the soul level. Because if that is true, right, if we really believe that, then we are separate as a soul being. We have aspects of our soul in the lower world, in the middle world, in the upper world, out in the cosmos someplace, who knows where, right? So you have to start bringing those components back. Now, you can do that through remembering, which is the way that I did it. I don't always recommend that because there's some trauma things that you have to deal with and some experiences, that you have to like reconcile in your own mind some way, somehow, and in your emotions. I think that we can bring those aspects will start to come back, and we won't have to have, or maybe we do have to have the memory of it. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's individualized. If you want the memory, it will come. If you don't want the memory, you don't have to have the memory. For me, I wanted the memory because I wanted to know all the things.
Control and knowledge.
It's exactly it was all about the knowledge, honestly. Yeah. But it was there was a lot of emotional work that I had to go through. But that again is, me healing up my own emotional body. And since I've been here for so stinking long, I think that was important for my my evolution. You get to decide if it's important for your evolution or not, if you're going to have the memory component.
Okay,
I think that's the one basic thing.
All right. So let's say we're right. And I'm on the same path, right? Where I've landed this entire week is we have in my soul is now male, female, 2 souls. Does that mean that there is separation, or can I be whole and complete with 2?
I think we can work it a multitude of ways. I think that, yes, we can work it that way as long as we acknowledge, as long as there's a consciousness about it, right? That things are not unconscious. See, separation happens when we don't bring in the memory of those things, or we don't have the recognition of those things. We're just completely unconscious about it. Like for me to say I don't have masculine energy, that's a total unconscious statement. And that's probably someplace where I should start. But I know that I have masculine energy. I know that I've, my good portion of my life has been masculine energy that I've used. So I think that we can have both. I think that we need to, as long as we can bring it into a consciousness.
Yep, exactly. So that's perfect. So hopefully that all makes sense to listeners.
Yeah.
So we have 2, right? Male, female. Why are we doing this? Why is this happening? We keep talking about bringing everything in alignment, bringing everything into this oneness, this heart space, getting everything into that space, this whole new level of consciousness. Why do you need 2? It's because we will be able to transition faster, more accurately. We will have more energy to play with as we transition to kind of support our energy being with those male, female souls that make up our energy body here on Earth. Does that make sense? So it'll help support us. It'll help elevate us. It'll help get us to this new level of consciousness, stronger, healthier, by having that male, female soul energy that makes up our whole energy body.
Mm-hmm.
It's not separate. They're not separated. Like you said, it's consciousness.
Yes.
That's holding all that together.
Yes. The reason that we've experienced separation was the competition of the conscious, the unconscious, which then turned into masculine, feminine, which then turned into all the other aspects, where we are today, right? So when we are talking about, bringing this sort of stuff into a more stable state, I think that that's the key component there. When we are moving into more unified state, we're more stable. Humans are more stable instead of being so unstable in the chaos is where we've been. So we're coming out of the chaos into a more stable, unified energy within ourselves. In that, there is more power. We have more power to heal our own body. We have more power to understand our emotions. We have more power to understand thoughts. We have more power to see things as a truth versus a perception of truth. We have more power to, travel to Mars, which is, on the docket. We have more power to understand the universe in a whole different way. Like there's more intuitive power when we move into a more unified state. So I think that is, again, the reason why we are moving into a new consciousness, a new level of consciousness. And it's actually to help save humanity. That's a horrible word, save, but it is actually, because otherwise the other one is destruction again.
Yeah, it's true.
And we've done that. That game's over.
It's a horrible vision, but it's true.
Yeah, it is. It's true. So maybe we can continue on that for next week too, is the whole, bringing the soul aspects more into the focus, because we focus on healing our human wounds through the traumas that we've experienced in a human life. But what about that soul aspect? What about that component? We talked about the amygdala again today and how we have to change the way that we view survival and the fight and flight theories and concepts and reality that we actually lived through with that. And how can we bring in, because is the soul actually safe in being in a human body? We've lived through separation where the soul wasn't in the human body, that's the belief system that followed it, right? So now we're moving into a more unified state, and are we bringing that soul into a human body now? And how safe are we doing that? Or is that what thriving is, right? So yeah.
I think that would be that we can talk about that for quite a few times on how that looks, and then bringing in those different, like you had talked about, bringing in these different aspects of our soul that are out in these different dimensions and different realms doing its work, bringing those in to kind of help support this transition as well. So it's all good stuff. You want to tie this all back to self
actualization.
Yes.
So
again, how does this all play into that?
Yeah.
Just like you started with.
In order to self-actualize, we have to create this amazing, stable foundation. We have to bring that into the consciousness, right? Because we've been so unstable before. We've been using competitive energy to control and dominate masculine and feminine energy. Now we're saying, oh, well, we're going to give that up now, and we're going to bring it into a more unified position. That means that we have to become more androgynous kind of thinking mentality, right? That's going to create this foundation where masculine and feminine energies are sort of equal or unified. And you have to start doing that within yourself. That is what self-actualization is, creating this very stable foundation that we've been talking about. So
awesome. Thank you so much. This was great.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you next week on the Blueprint Podcast.
Thank you for being with us today. To find out more about Angela, visit her website at www.angelablaha.com